May I begin?
Thank you. Welcome to the Town of Waterville Valley Conservation Commission. It's Tuesday, February 11th, 2025, 1 p.m. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, good afternoon.
Okay. You can hear us all right?
Yes, audio is great. Thank you.
Great. Okay. We're going to do a quick roll call and take a break and let Mark and Megan speak to the road salt issue because Mark has to leave. So let's do a quick roll call. Jenny start.
Jenny Lucas, member.
Garrett Levy, chair.
Rebecca Hastings, member.
Charles Hastings, member.
Paul Ricotta, member.
John Racine, member.
Okay, thank you. And
Patrick.
Patrick.
Patrick, alternate.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. All right, so we'll hold number 2, the review of the minutes until after your lead.
Yeah, so beginning of the season, we did use a higher sand to salt ratio. And we've tried to continue that through now, but unfortunately with the negative temperatures that come during the night, we've moved over a few storms to a straight salt application just to help clear the roads, so that way we don't have black ice in the middle of the night. For the people who are either out with their friends and whatnot, walking around, pets, or just people coming into town, trying to make it a little safer. We did get a new plow truck this year, along with a new cutting edge that we were told before we got it is supposed to help scrape the roads better, to help reduce salt usage, which it has. And the routes that plow truck plows, which it varies depending on who is on call for the day. It has reduced the salt usage on that route. Other truck still has older cutting edge, so it doesn't reduce the salt usage. But looking forward, when that one wears out, looking forward to using the newer style cutting edge to help reduce that salt usage. The Green Pro program, before it even became a thing, I was in the conversations and everything. It's been around for the commercial aspect, but not the municipal. And the commercial aspects have benefits, incentives for them to participate in these programs. And I know a lot of towns like Laconia and stuff like that, the private entities look for contractors who have that and are looking to reduce the salt usage that they are using. Municipal wise, there is no incentives for us currently to do it. We would pay to be a part of the program just to submit a document to DES saying we are actively reducing salt usage each year, and that's pretty much it. There's no incentives for us, whether that be insurance or other benefits from DES that the commercial contractors get. So
What sort of cost is there, Megan?
I remember they were talking, I haven't looked into it, but when they were talking about it 2 years ago, it was around $150 to participate. So.
Well, and that's, you would have to have a special sprayer for the liquid.
So that's a brine. That's not,
Brine,
it's not
right.
a necessity or requirement
This
for
is
this
more of a
program.
tracking certification
Yeah,
program
okay.
for what we are
What you're
doing.
doing.
Like
Yeah.
things like using the new cutting edge,
Mhm.
things like
Yeah.
increasing sand
Yeah.
to salt ratios.
But if you went to something like a brine, that would certainly be a cost for a special
Yeah,
equipment.
there's
Yes.
equipment
Yeah.
that, and we have looked at that before.
Yeah.
We looked at molasses, there's a molasses
Mhm. I've heard of that.
base brine, there's a salt based.
Beet juice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Beet juice. We've looked at the different types of liquid applications, pre-treatment,
Right, versus,
They were just very costly and from even the vendors with our small number of roads and the light traffic comparatively that we have, the liquid didn't add anything to our
Hmm.
process.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
It does take a certain amount of traffic and as new technology comes in, we will look at it. And if it makes sense to do it, we'd certainly consider it, but,
Yeah.
we're talking six-figure investments
Sure.
for really no return as far as lessening the amount of salt that we would have to eventually use.
Hmm.
The pictures that you sent, Jenny, definitely there has been a higher concentration this year, with salt. But that's been weather driven more than, we do want to reduce the amount of salt and we have increased the sand content of what we're spreading. But with the weather being the way that it is, you just get too much ice buildup.
Yeah, and to the pictures that were sent, or just in general, you had heard this earlier this morning, the expectation of service, right, that we are providing, and the service level and expectations of transient guests coming in. Yes, it may be the people who live here, all want snow-packed roads and are fine driving on snow-packed roads, but there's also the transient guests who are coming in and expect blacktop,
Mhm.
right? Want it completely bare, don't want to have to drive on snowpack. So I think that also needs to be taken into account. I don't know whether that be a survey or just, asking around to not only the residents, but the transient guests as well, to figure out if they're wanting to drive on snowpacked roads, okay, we adjust, slightly,
And-
but
And we're also, we did the water tests in the Mad River, in
Oh,
Snows
yeah.
Brook in past years. We're not seeing any elevated sodium or chlorine levels in our
Mhm.
water. We're not seeing it in our drinking water sources. We have a monitoring well out here, and even given the amount of salt, which to the naked eye may seem like there's a lot of salt here, trying to keep it clear for customers, we're not seeing any elevated levels in our water testing anywhere in town. If there's somebody who is doing water testing other than the town and they're seeing high levels, we certainly would like to know about
Yeah.
that so that we can check it out.
Mhm.
But we're not seeing any brown vegetation in the summertime, where we would be damaging the water on the road edges. At least not what if you guys are seeing that, then we should talk about that, but I don't know if there's evidence of over salting. We are trying to control it because we don't want it to be an issue. And if I'm missing something in that assessment, please share that with us. If there were a town meeting vote that you guys don't care as a town that the roads are not clear, if you can get that vote from a majority of the town, I would love that sense of meeting,
Yeah.
because we will change how we treat the roads. I'm not getting that
Mhm.
vibe from any place
Yeah.
in town.
My,
If that's the case, then tell us.
my question for Megan, from my position of ignorance. I'm curious, you indicated that, as we got into sub-zero temperatures, the mix of sand and salt wasn't adequate to protect the road surfaces. Like, the question is, and I just don't understand how this works. if you have enough sand, the goal is not so much to melt the surface of ice, but to have it gritty. So that as people drive over it, walk it, it's gritty. And if it's gritty, the road's not clear, but it's not so slippery. And evidently that doesn't work. I'm curious why
So-
you can't just plaster. I know you don't want too much
You
sand.
needed to listen to the panel discussion.
Well, I was busy with other things and I couldn't, I'm sorry.
Well, but just one thing that you said that I want to correct, Charles, is yes, our goal is to melt the snow.
Yeah,
And when it meals up, when it has all those chunks that come off your tires and stuff, that is the salt action, right?
Mhm.
And the reason that we go with a higher salt content as it gets colder is you can lower that melting temperature. So you're down into the 20s, and you can clear it off when it's colder. If the temperature is in the high 20s, low 30s, you don't need as much salt. You'll get the melting action. It will meal up and then it's easier to plow off.
Yeah.
In fact, 2 weekends, just one other thing. 2 weekends ago, I came into town and the roads were snow covered. And I'm like, I get mad because the phone's gonna ring, right?
Yeah.
So, but within an hour or two, as soon as the crew was here and plowed it off, the roads bared up right away. And that's because the snow had not adhered to the road surface and could be plowed off.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you put the picture of Upper Mad River Road on there because I live on Upper
Yeah.
Mad River Road. We are increasing the salt content because that road a few years ago became almost impassable because the snow adhered, because Thornton was famous for not putting any salt on their roads. And in fact, there was a line at the Campton Thornton town line
Oh,
where
I think I remember that.
Campton's roads were completely bare and Thornton's roads were completely snow-packed
Different philosophy.
because of the
Yeah.
different philosophy of the
Yeah.
amount of salt. But what happened a few years ago, we went through a lot of thawing and freezing and a lot of ruts developed, and then they couldn't do anything with them. They became ice. And that's what we're trying to prevent.
Mhm.
And so that is a perfect example where the town is actually going the other way of what we're doing, and they're applying more salt. And in order to clear the road a little bit better.
I thought it was interesting in the one panel discussion of the science of the snow and the temperatures, and they actually, the one group actually have a meteorologist that just study that, and so they can tell you, okay, these road conditions, you're gonna need this for that temperature. I was really sort
Yeah,
of, wow.
And all of the crew, including myself, we go to annual classes for snow removal, salt, and everything like that. To make sure we are staying up to date on what the appropriate ratios are, especially with how the climate the way it is currently. And we keep a very close eye on the weather, and when it's sunny, we try, unless we get called, not to use any salt because the sun will just melt it right down. And then as looking into the future for snow fighting, depending on what it's going to do the next day, we might go lay a small layer, I wouldn't even say layer, but small amount of salt, just to keep, like Mark said, the snow from sticking to the asphalt.
I think what's important too is what Mark said about the traffic. So that's really dependent on the flow of traffic too, and that's what really helps as a catalyst to melt the snow as well as the chemical. And if you don't have that traffic, like late at night, it's
Yeah.
there's really nothing's gonna happen. You put as much salt down as you want when it's 5 degrees out, and
Yeah.
nothing's gonna happen.
And like this week will be a lot easier, right? We'll have more traffic around town because of the holiday week. And so it'll actually be easier to treat the roads and probably get away with a little less salt because there'll be more traffic to keep it
Yeah.
from binding. to
And
the-
spreading it around too.
Yeah, and spreading the
Mhm.
salt around. Yeah,
And
so,
I know you sent the picture of the sidewalk with the amount of salt on it. We had implemented something new on the sander this year. It's a flow regulator for the hydraulics. So we can run the machine at a higher rate than the actual sander. So it's not just spinning and throwing the salt
Right.
everywhere. So we are still fine tuning that. So that is the reason
Yeah.
that there's more salt on the sidewalks than there has been, just because we are trying to fine tune that there. So.
And you have a new, isn't there a new blade, or I don't know if it was a whole new truck, but when I was out the other day, they had. They were plowing the road, but also the sidewalk, there was a side, that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, they've been taking the wing of the truck and
Yeah.
placing it on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So with this new blade that you're talking about, does it have any adverse effects on the pavement condition?
So it's the cutting edge itself. The cutting edge has both a carbide and a rubber insert in the actual cutting blade itself. So it scrapes like a rubber edge does, but also like a carbide.
So you don't,
So-
so you don't wreck the road,
Wreck the
the surface of the road.
Mhm.
High tech.
But I
I-
think
yeah.
also, you know, on the comment, like with the salt usage at the condos and the private stuff,
Just thinking of
it's,
that.
it's like the expectations of the people who are coming these days is very, you know,
Yeah.
different than it
Well,
was
that's-
not that long
yeah.
ago.
Yeah,
And it used to be more of a self-serve operation. You had
Yeah.
like you know, buckets and you could salt your own
right.
little area. Now it's like,
Oh.
there's just salt everywhere. It goes all through your house and it's
Yeah,
like,
I
it's,
think
the
Three
sidewalks
Lakes
are just
does not
completely.
regulate how they,
Yeah, so I think it's,
Yeah.
you know, changing preferences unfortunately,
Yeah.
and busier
So what-
weekends and busier, you
And
know.
what can we do about that? That's a good question, because I
Well, I
think. an
think that's
awful
where
lot of
we
salt-
need to go.
awful
I
lot
think
of
it's
salt
an
is coming from the
educational, it's an
condos.
educational
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
and putting out, you know, the information about the things the town is
Mhm.
trying to do to lessen salt.
Yeah.
Do a letter from the Conservation Commission to the home,
to
to the condo
to
associations
the
and
property
say,
managers.
And
to the property managers
Yeah.
and say, you know, please work with us and,
Mhm.
you know, try to reduce the amount of salt
Yeah.
that's used. And really the amount of chemicals that are used,
Yeah.
because there are other
Yeah,
anti-freezing
Yeah.
treatments that people
Yeah.
can use that are not salt-based
Hmm.
that could be potentially harmful as well.
And also the impervious
Talk about
services, the impervious services of this condo associations are huge. You know, the amount of like parking lot and so on, and the runoff is just massive into the storm sewer, so.
there you go.
It's you know, it's far worse than the roads when you look at it from that perspective.
Yeah.
You know?
It looks like that.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the pie chart that showed,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I
sources
did.
of salt and
76%.
like
Interesting.
parking lots
Yeah,
are
and
like
From
at
26
least
from
half of it.
2017.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So that's a big thing that we have. I really appreciate you guys
Yeah.
both coming in. It sounds like this is definitely something that you
Mhm.
put a lot of time and
I-
energy and thought into. and
Yes,
even-
I'm actively always
Yeah.
looking for things.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
And I want to put it out there that a lot of contractors that I've seen or dealt with, their personal, personal. The sanders in the back of their
Yeah.
trucks are at a higher rate
Yeah.
than our trucks are.
Mhm.
Ours are, so it goes up to 10. The sanders inside the trucks, we run at a 2 or a 3
Mhm.
compared to contractors, they're running at
Yeah.
sometimes 6 or
Mhm.
7. So,
Yeah.
And they're doing parking lots where there's
Yes.
not a lot of traffic.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
you know, they're
Yeah.
treating completely different situations than we are.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then maybe ask them to dial that back to 5
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, whatever it is, if you can reduce your sand and salt treatments on your surfaces by
Yeah.
a quarter or.
Yeah.
But I do
Right.
think it's
You know.
also that population needs to know, not just
Yeah.
the association boards and
Definitely.
property managers, because the property managers are doing basically
What they're.
what they,
hired.
yeah, what is
Exactly.
gonna please the owners, because
Mhm.
that's what
Yeah.
they're paying for. They
Right.
don't wanna get in trouble, just like when
Yeah.
they would call you if the road's not clear, they call the same
They
people,
call
they
the
call the
property
property
managers.
manager, say, why is our
Right.
parking lot not down the bare pavement?
Yeah.
It's been 2 days, you know, so it's
Yeah.
so I think it
Yeah.
really has to be the
Hmm.
homeowners have to understand
And you
that-
know, this is a perfect, you know, we get, and I know we're all tired by the end of town meeting, but there's always that item at the
Mhm.
end of the warrant, right? That's to hear reports of agencies and committees. You guys standing up and talking about something like this is a good time to get it on
To
the
get the
record
awareness.
and to put it out there
That's
that,
a
hey,
really good
there's a,
idea.
Yeah.
there's something we can do
Yeah.
here to help make it better in our community.
That's a good
Right,
idea.
and start finding out what is the expectation, because
Mhm.
if you got feedback that people don't need it to be perfectly clear, then,
Mm.
you know, let's get that info.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think there's a certain clientele that wants it perfectly clear,
Mhm.
and there are understandably older
Mhm.
people who want that, you
Sure.
know, for fear of slipping.
Yeah.
But for the vast majority of people who are coming to recreate, you know, you would think that they would understand, they wanna play in the snow. It's not that big a deal to get your boots a little snowy from time to time, while walking from your car to your house, but
If you're going
that is-
skiing, I would hope
right,
that
you
you'd
know, that
want
is
that.
Yeah.
not something that a lot of people
Nobody
have
wants-
patience for.
Salt tracked into the house either.
Right.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah,
could
we
see,
have
like-
this conversation with the rest of the town at town
Mhm.
meeting would be a good thing if you can get them engaged.
Is it possible
Good
to
idea.
use an insert into like a mailing, like for a water bill or something like that?
Probably a water bill, I would say the third quarter, so that would be the July, August,
Mhm.
the June, July, August
Yeah.
bill, right? No, July, August, September.
Yeah, that would make the
Yeah.
most sense, because this year
Right,
the sun
because
angle's
it's coming.
increasing now anyway, so you're gonna
Right.
have that
So the
melting,
rest of the
natural
year is
melting.
fine, but if you get them with that September bill that goes out in October, hey, snow is coming.
Coming, yeah.
Here's some info, that would be a
Yeah.
great time to.
And we
to
did
put it
have
in.
very difficult December,
Mhm.
early January with just
Yeah.
very little amounts of
Mhm.
snow, traces of snow. And very cold temperatures, so
Right.
it was definitely a salt fest at that point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the ice that concerns
think-
me more than the snow.
Yeah,
So-
but yeah.
And we haven't had the rain that we did last winter.
No,
Yeah, it's
this
kind of
has
been an
actually
old-fashioned
been a
winter.
good
Good.
winter,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
snow wise,
Good,
and so.
yeah. Can I see, is Patrick,
Like,
Patrick, are you
speak for
there?
yourself, Margaret.
Yeah, maybe. No, she's the snow person, I'm
Oh.
the anti.
Oh.
You're
Oh.
anti-snow,
We
you
go back and forth.
I,
Yeah,
I just want to chime in with, so I'm living in a new spot this winter in a condo complex, so I just see things differently
Yep.
now. I used to take care of my own little driveway and walkway the way I wanted. And so Windsor Hill, I mean, every once in a while, I feel like, whoa, they went crazy with the salt here, and I just sweep it off of my walkway and call it a day. But in general, it's not horrible that I found. I don't know if you feel differently, but
I think it depends on the building because of the sun exposure and
oh,
what you
that
get with the
could
freeze and
be,
thaw.
that could be.
So
all sunny.
I find it's like really quite a lot
Yeah.
compared to what it
Yep.
used to be.
Mhm.
Regardless of where you
nice.
live, but like regardless of what building it is, I
Yeah.
find that it's a lot more usage. And the expectations are far higher by the people that come,
Mhm,
both the seasonal renters and the
mhm.
owners.
Yeah.
And I don't know, when I was on the board, I sort of proposed that we treat different areas, you know, like depending on what the
People wanted.
yeah, like what the
yeah.
full-time residents who lives there and what
Yeah.
they need as opposed to blanket coverage. But, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
you see how it is at Windsor Hill. People don't move their cars when it snows.
Yeah.
It's a problem that goes way
Everywhere.
beyond just salt usage. It's just
Attitude.
strange behavior, attitude adjustments that are required.
But
It's just, you know, like inconsiderate behavior.
Yeah.
Like
Look,
those cars stay parked for days and
Yeah.
you know, it's just,
yeah, they do.
then you can't get the.
There's one that I
plow.
don't think has moved a couple.
So, but
of
Chris
times.
is very good. He's excellent, you know, he's amazing at snow removal, the property manager, but you know, the expectation is also extremely high. The standard is very high from a lot of people who don't want to walk in the snow.
Yeah.
So-
Patrick, did you want to add something to this about how Three Lakes does Tri-Pyramid?
Only that I think we're probably a heavy user of salt.
Yes.
But I think also there's probably a good size of our association that expects that bare pavement. And as you know, sometimes our parking lot can turn into a ice arena without that salt. But I'm also observing that it's causing corrosion to our garage doors.
Oh, yeah.
And the salt lays up against the bottom. And
Right.
we
Yeah.
have some animal owners that have expressed concern about
Yes,
the amount of salt out there. That's all, I had, but
Yeah.
it's certainly a good discussion to have.
Yes.
So that's a good segue. So living in Windsor Hill, I walk through village condos quite often now, and I'm walking through there. And I'm saying, there's no salt.
Oh.
There's a lot of sand. There's a little snowpack here and there. And
Mhm.
so I emailed Chip Roper, because I don't know anybody that lives there. I said, what's up with how you guys take care of your association? He said, talk to Leslie Rosewarne, she's the manager.
Mm.
And
Mm.
boy, oh boy, she's got a lot of, she's like, she should be on this commission if she lived
Oh,
here.
yeah.
They're completely different. They do mostly sand
Mhm.
with only enough salt so that the sand doesn't freeze. And they had just focused on clearing the road as best they can. And they, they have their own on-site guy who takes care of everything. So but everyone seems to be fine with the snow-covered roads and the no salt and just the sand to give you a little bit of traction. And it's quite pleasant over there.
Mm.
And I was like, this is how it could be.
Uh-huh.
Like most of the condo associations are flat as can be, like village condos.
Yeah.
Like not a lot of them are like built into hills, and I don't know. So that just sort of piqued my that's what got this whole thing
Yeah.
rolling, I think, actually, with wanting to talk
Yeah.
about it again.
Hmm.
But I have a question about like a hypothetical, like a test area. What would you say to a test area of, I don't know, no salt or sand only or something on like the Triple I Road from Base Area Road to the bridge? And no houses. All it is a cut through to the mountain for people that live on West Branch Road. I just like food for thought, like instead of just saying we just can't do it, everyone expects spare pavement. What if there was one flat road that we could give it a whirl? It's also very hard to plow because it's a mess. So I know a lot of potholes and stuff over there.
I don't think it would be a fair test. Yes, it does see traffic, but it doesn't see the traffic like Valley
Mm.
or any within the main loop
Mhm.
would see.
It's also very shaded and the
Mhm.
sun, you don't get hardly any sun in that area. I mean, if we did. So two things, I think we have to get a truly representative piece of road that's
Mhm.
easy to isolate and, treat differently. It is gonna cause some operational, because you gotta change the mix in a truck or however you're gonna do the test. So,
Mhm.
you'd have to think about how you actually do it.
Yeah.
But that section of road has its own
Challenges.
little
Oh, okay.
challenges that, I
Yeah.
think we'd have to pick a different section to get
Mhm.
a real feedback from how it works.
Okay.
Not to say it can't be done, but,
Yeah.
maybe a cut-through road village would be very difficult because of all the foot traffic that you get from the parking lots to
Yeah.
Town Square and
I was
the
thinking
arena.
Packards.
Packard's would be potentially one that had good amount of traffic. You gotta talk to those condos.
The
and-
Golden Eagle people,
and the
yeah.
Golden Eagle people. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of challenges there.
Yeah.
Tecumseh, you've got all the condo associations, but you got Village, and if they're already trying it, maybe you get some support, I don't know. But operationally, it's
Yeah.
gonna be difficult,
Yeah.
because of the loads that are already on the trucks
Mhm.
and trying to figure out how to balance that out.
So it sounds to me like we need to see if there are more people than maybe just a handful of us who are
Mhm.
who are unhappy with like so much salt being used, even if we're not detecting noticeable amounts in water and wells and stuff like that. It just
Just a
it's
mess.
sort of the long
global
term
mess,
and
Yeah.
like we said, the damage to
Yeah.
infrastructure, the
Yeah.
damage to all the trucks and the
And the
tunnels and
cleanliness, too,
bridges
just
and
of it,
Mhm.
cleanliness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
maybe like the pet angle is a good way to do it, because people
Right.
like
Yes.
lead to their pets, so they
Right.
could,
Yeah.
talk about the dangers of salt in the
In
paws.
the pause.
Quick
Yes.
tidbit
Yeah.
for if we ever go to more sand than salt, salt melts, it dissipates,
Disappears.
right?
Yeah.
Sand,
That's
all of
not-
the catch basins, every single
Oh,
clean
yeah.
out would have to happen.
More
That is an
sediment.
added cost
Yeah,
on top
no,
of the,
they were definitely saying that like
so.
more, I'm not talking about more of anything really, although I suppose if you reduce salt, you might need a little more sand, but I'm talking about just
Not treating. Yeah.
just
a
snow
different
covered road,
treating
like
way. Yeah.
like that Denver.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
straight up, you're driving on snow, folks.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Or,
I
you know,
just
upper.
don't-
Mon-
Colorado.
I know,
just
I
don't
don't
see
skip.
people
Colorado, the
accept
side
it.
streets
I
are
know,
really
I don't
flat,
either,
so
right?
they just let that, just let it melt.
I
But-
feel
and I
pretty
know,
sure on snow than I
Village
do black
Only the-
brings in a sweeper
pavement.
every spring to sweep
Like
up,
us,
so
yeah.
they do have that added,
Yeah.
they're willing to absorb that extra cost
In
to,
case,
yeah.
you know, if y'all bring it up at town meeting, in case they ask if there's an added cost, there would be.
Yeah, for
100
sure.
an added
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So.
No, there's no doubt.
Well,
Oh, and just to circle back quickly to, you had said, like, you don't notice any, vegetation burn or something along the side of the road. I think when we talked about this a couple years ago, I brought it up because I thought we had maybe gone through a change in how much salt we use, because I used to live up on Lost Pass Road, and one of my neighbors had a beautiful green lawn, beautiful. And one year, it was just all brown, 2 feet of brown in, and it hadn't been like that before. That's why I thought there'd been like a shift in our
Well, there
formula or
was.
something.
There was a time period where we were applying way, way more salt than we're doing right now.
Oh,
And you
okay.
can see the expenditures by year when that happened.
hmm,
And so we have backed off quite a bit from our salt application from those days.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Okay.
there was a period, definitely.
One other thought question. It's good that we're not seeing salt increases showing up in the river or elsewhere. I'm kind of curious to what extent, especially salt, well, depending on where it's supplied, it doesn't, some of it doesn't make it into the storm drain. Some of it just makes it into the ground and down into the aquifer, which we're not going to be able to measure easily. And so I'm curious to what extent salt usage in the town does at a very low level, but concerning level, affect the salt content in the aquifer beneath Waterville Valley. And that seems to be,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
immeasurable
We're
but a
not
concern.
seeing anything measurable differences in that aquifer. It isn't like we're
Right.
seeing high
right,
sodium content.
we'd see
high
that in the
chlor-
wells.
We would see it in the wells if it
Yeah.
were getting that far, but again, our wells are, other than well 2, our wells are fairly well protected, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're way,
Yeah.
they're.
Yes.
There's a,
okay.
what, about 300, 500 feet of distance
Right.
between well 3 and West Branch Road.
mhm.
Well 4 is up in the forest. We don't have to worry about that. Well 2 is what, maybe 200 feet from West Branch Road, but even that
Mhm.
is a
Yeah.
significant
Yeah.
distance when you're talking about aquifer. I mean, if we were applying salt to a damaging level,
Mhm.
we'd see something.
Mhm.
Quite frankly, we were never gonna see it in the Mad River because the water sample that we take
It's coming
is,
from way up.
is coming from way up on the mountain and it changes every 2
Right.
hours.
Yeah.
So it's not,
Yeah.
if anything is running off into the river, it's down in Campton. Where they would see measurable differences,
It
but
sounds to me like the action items that we as a responsible commission should take would be, I guess, 3. One, we should plan on some kind of a presentation at the town meeting. I think it's a wonderful idea. And that could even then be open to discussion. People could fume and vent or agree and so forth. Another would be something to go into the, what was it, early fall.
the October.
That would be a
water
nice
sewer
little insert.
Yeah.
And the third thing would be, I think, most productively, something to send out to condominium
Condos,
associations,
mhm.
more so than the property managers. Property managers do what they're hired to
Yeah.
do, I would think.
Mhm.
And we don't really, I'm not sure, it's late in the season, I'm not sure how much of that
Mhm.
we should do now, except for the town meeting.
March meeting,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it will be good to talk more with the woman from or the village
Mhm.
condos and find out what she does and how everybody there, there are a lot of people there, and
A lot of people
evidently
there.
they're all on board. with
Yeah, I know,
The
who knows?
majority of them.
Mhm.
And back to your catch basins and things with the sand, doesn't all of that stuff kind of run back into Corcoran Pond, and doesn't, where
No.
your
The-
storm
The
drains
catch-
go?
the storm drains, if anything, are probably in Snowsbrook below the
Mhm,
pond.
okay,
And then maybe it would eventually get to the Mad River, but I don't think a
Yeah.
lot of it's even
but
getting.
is
to
that
the
a
Mad
big
River.
problem for you,
Because of the
cleaning out
distances.
those, or do they
At the-
get clogged and,
The catch basins?
Yeah.
Yes,
We clean them.
we clean them
yeah,
annually.
and then do you reuse that sand? Put it back in your little garage?
Recycle sand.
Not.
No.
There's a big
You
vacuum
know, vacuum,
truck,
vacuum it all.
and it goes out of town, and they get rid of it.
All right, I think we should move along to the next
Sure.
item.
Yeah,
Mark.
thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for
Thank
that
you.
discussion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Corcoran Pond update? Is that
Yep,
what you wanted?
We had the budget and bond hearing, the packets about the town budget have been out at the post office, and the packet includes a capital improvements program insert as well. The pond dredging is no longer in the capital program. When we looked at the total capital program in our bonding authority, which is limited by statute of how much debt the town can incur. And we looked at the cost of the dredging project. And then the additional cost of doing sedimentation basins. The select board said, given all of the other capital items that we have in the plan, we are gonna take the dredging project out for this year. We communicated that to the resort and said, we're willing to put it back in if you provide funding for it. And
I love it.
they said that they will not move forward with the dredging of Corcoran Pond. They'd rather put their resources into the snowmaking pond project that they've had on their master plan for a long, long time. So that's where we are with the dredging project. So we did try to go back to DES and do more a scaled back project where we were just dredging parts of the pond on a very small scale as a maintenance item with different permitting and all of that, because we didn't want to go through the permitting process. They will not allow us to do that. It needs full permitting anytime we dredge it. So that $2 million number for just dredging is probably a minimum cost. Because if we go back and we do 5 sections, by the time you add up all of the permitting and engineering that you would need to do that, you're gonna spend in the millions of dollars anyway. So we've tried a different option with them and they did not buy off on it. So right now, the dredging project is not in the plan. I think that makes Rick Vanderpool's project this summer
Mhm.
even more important
Important,
yep.
because
Mhm.
we'll
Yeah.
want to try to reduce sedimentation coming down
Mhm.
Snowsbrook into the pond as much as we can. So I don't think it should stop it. I have not communicated this information to Rick yet,
Mhm.
so we need to
Right.
get a meeting together with him and
Wow.
talk down through it. I just found out about the DES no-go on the smaller projects yesterday, so
Mm.
we've been
Okay.
trying to work through that
Yeah.
with DES before we,
Right. Does that mean, the mountain will be using the Corcoran Pond for water, for snowmaking or? not?
as much as they can. I mean, they have an easement
Mhm,
for water rights
mhm.
on it.
And by taking this out of that part of the budget, because we have such expenses coming up, does that mean we're not likely to consider dredging until after the wastewater treatment plant is done?
If ever again.
Hmm,
Yeah,
okay.
it's an issue,
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, I mean,
We'll see what
without the sedimentation basins, it's $2 million to
Right.
get it back down to 20 feet. With the sedimentation basins, it's 4.1 million.
Hmm.
With sedimentation basins. You know, it's just a huge amount of money and. You know, we're gonna have a lot of comments, even given the CIP that we're presenting, even without it. It's
Mhm.
Yeah.
$18 million over 6 years. Because every road is in there and all of the other things, and that doesn't even take into account the wastewater treatment plant. Yeah, it's a lot, you know, and, the board had, you know. There are very few things that are nice to haves rather than must haves. As far as from a operational standpoint in there, in the CIP, so. Can't go back to dirt roads, that's not gonna go over, well. We're gonna have to pave them somehow,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's an issue.
It does make it all the more important to reduce that sedimentation coming
Yeah.
in.
And, you know, we're gonna continue to see water quality issues. Well, I know there's all kinds of ramifications of making that type of a decision, but,
Mhm.
you know, short of even more of a tax increase,
Mm.
you know, and it's gonna be another discussion point, if not this year, then in the coming years,
Mhm.
what are we gonna do with the pond?
Mm.
And what's gonna happen if we don't make a decision to dredge it before Tyrell does development around the pond? You know,
Well, they
because
maybe
once
wanna
it's
think
developed
twice.
around the pond,
Yeah.
well,
Maybe then
once
he'll-
it's developed around the pond, it's just gonna become more and more problematic, and more
Yeah.
and more expensive to dredge it.
Mhm. They might well think of that ahead of time before they
Well,
start their development. At least be aware.
that's why we had it on the discussion this year, so that we could
Oh.
have that discussion with them.
Mhm.
I have a question. To switch topics,
Sure.
just quickly,
Yeah.
only because it came up at the budget hearing and Dylan talked about it, about the tree clearing.
Yep.
That's they can test the subsoils or whatever.
Mhm.
Just because it's been brought up so many times, it makes me think that it's like a bigger deal than most people are realizing. So when we talk about the land that Tyrell bought, everyone thinks it's like that little parking lot where they keep all their equipment,
No,
but
it's
it's that whole stretch of woods.
between the plant and Triple I Road.
Mm-hmm.
All of that land from the little driveway that goes down into the treatment plant.
Mm-hmm.
From there to Triple I Road is what we purchased from Tyrell.
Okay.
That lot will be the new plant. The entire lot.
Okay. I guess maybe I should look at a map.
Yeah, so it's this whole. This entire lot.
Okay, so this is the overpass
This
So when
is
you're,
the
when you're
bridge.
walking from the
Yeah,
trans,
you're
to- you walk
walking
under
down,
the
you walk
bridge.
under the bridge.
so this whole
This
thing
entire
is where the
block.
clearing is, there's
No,
gonna be
well,
patches of clearing
Patches of clearing
Mhm.
for right now,
in those woods.
but when we build the plant,
That's where it's. gonna
that's
go.
where it's going to go,
Oh,
that parcel.
Okay, okay.
that is a parking lot where,
There's a
There's a little
small
driveway.
section of
Parking
it that's
section,
cleared
yeah.
that the
Yeah.
property management
Okay.
company
Right.
That's
is
the
using.
little,
so that's
Right.
part of it, okay.
the Balsam
Thank you for-
nursery there.
Yeah,
I always
Clarifying
call
that.
it the-
I was just thinking, well, I
Balsam
mean, there aren't that many
nursery.
trees, like maybe around the parking area, but it made me think that maybe that lot is a lot bigger than I thought it was, and it is, yeah.
it's not very big.
Oh, it's not very big, but bigger than bigger than just
Bigger
the
than
parking
you
lot.
thought.
Yeah, it's bigger than just a little contractor yard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That one right there.
Okay,
Yeah. So.
all right. Sounds good. Any other questions? Before you leave, do you have an update on the 13 on Britain's land?
Yeah, we're just waiting for David. We have an agreement signed. We have a deed that's been agreed to.
Mhm.
We're just getting David's signature on it and getting it recorded.
Okay.
That's the only thing we're waiting on.
Can we legally officially say that it is the town's?
Not yet.
Not
Not
yet,
until he
not till he
signs that.
signs.
I will say it by
Please.
town meeting.
Can you
He
get
will
him,
Sign it
please?
before.
For town meetings.
Wow, hope he's not holding out.
Maybe, but he's not holding. I just have not tracked him down. They are in town, everything is.
Yeah, we
good.
sat
Just
behind
wait.
him Friday night. We should have given him a.
Yeah.
Go see Mark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
thank you, Megan and Mark.
yes, thank you very much.
Taking time out of your busy, crazy
No.
schedule.
we should have at
No
least offered you
worries.
snacks or something.
No, we're good.
And thanks for the quick work on the library the other day, so we didn't end up with frozen
Frozen
pipes
pipes.
over there.
Absolutely.
I was worried about that. Maybe we should let the water run a little bit before,
Yeah, yeah,
but he came and fixed it. We didn't have to do that.
all right.
Awesome.
Very good. Let's go back to the beginning. Review and approve minutes of January 14th. Have any?
I looked at those so long ago.
Oh,
they
so
are-
long ago.
they were
I know.
I think they look pretty good. I didn't see-
okay, I think.
Yes,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for January 14th,
I have a second.
2025.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
There were a couple things.
Yes.
Oh, did you have
No,
an-
no, no, no.
Yes.
I'm just, while we're on the topic of that last meeting, this is probably the wrong place. One of the things that one of several things that I was supposed to do, I was asked to contact the Lubitz couple that.
Oh, yeah, about
About
being a member on the-
considering.
yeah.
Oh,
um,
yeah.
becoming
conservation
members of
member,
the
yeah.
Conservation Commission. I did not, because the letter I have that they had addressed to the planning board, I actually have it's just signed. I don't have
Oh.
an email or an address. And I didn't think I should go ahead with this until I have, well, obviously until I have it, and I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I would like to get that from. some
From
sort of
the office
official
or
family.
from-
I have his wife's cell phone number, so I can
Yes.
ask her to send me
Okay.
Cliff's
Because ideally, I
Contact
would have an
info.
email, then I could send a
Yep.
few
email. Okay,
attachments
okay,
and such.
I'll ask her.
And if I have that, then I will proceed.
Excellent.
Also,
we-
I think I had foolishly volunteered. We discussed that before the next plan meeting. I think this was in connection with the planning board. All of these, well, I guess there were 3 zoning changes that are going to be discussed and voted on. And there had been a cry for more maps to make available to the public.
Public, yeah.
And I said, sure, I'll do that. But then I realized I don't actually have myself
Mhm.
maps of floodplains or of slope or of whatever the shoreline restrictions are.
Hmm.
And so I shouldn't have said that I can just go ahead and do that. But I haven't taken the time to look. Are there such maps perhaps in the environmental review that Rick did a few years ago for the town. I wouldn't know where else to look to find those kinds of maps.
Other than the NRI.
Carva
yeah.
maybe did some for the
Yeah.
planning board discussion, yeah.
I don't know. I don't have them. And what kind of
Where
maps do
could
we
he go?
really want
Do you
to
have
present to
the-
people?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, there probably are in the, either in the town GIS or in the, or in the state GIS,
Yeah.
DES, but we'd have to know what layers we want, and we could like get them. It's not a problem to get them, but
And sometimes these maps are a bit complex to interpret.
yeah.
Mhm.
And for how widely understood will those be if we distribute those
Hmm.
in some way? How would we distribute them?
I think, first of all, you should just approach Mark,
Mhm.
have that discussion with him.
Yeah,
And I know that Tara, I'll talk with her on the board meeting we have on Thursday and see what her thoughts are, but Mark would be the one to go to.
And probably
Yeah.
the maps that, that were included in our package when we reviewed it, those might be sufficient, actually. They did have topographic maps in there and showed this, where the steep slopes would apply, and there's a couple other things in there.
and
That
was
might
for
be
a small
sufficient
group.
for-
How,
yeah.
how does this apply to town meeting though? Because that's what we're
Well,
concerned
then
about.
you get somebody to print off something big like that to
Just
put
hang
up on easels
On
so
an easel,
people
maybe.
can look, yeah.
Maybe.
These
Or have
are,
a
these are gonna be
table.
voted on at the like the ballot booth. It's not gonna be a town meeting vote. And
Is that right?
zoning
Okay.
amendments are voted on in
Ah.
the, so having like a handout or a poster at
Yeah.
the ballot
Yeah,
part of the
Yeah.
day.
Voting place, yeah.
But there is one in Rick's
I wondered.
NRI
Yeah.
that shows the perennial streams that would be affected with the shoreland protection. There is definitely, and it's just Cascade Brook and Snows Brook. It's very,
Mm.
like, there's virtually no, other than the condos, the
Right.
water replace condos, there's
Yeah.
no one that abuts anything. But
So in terms of which of these zoning amendments will be most controversial or most difficult to get approved? Probably not shoreland,
Only steep slopes.
steep
Steep
slopes
slopes, yeah.
and floodplain, steep slopes.
I'm
that
pretty
was
sure
what,
Tara
15
had
degrees
a
or
map for
something?
that one.
Yeah, Tara had a map of it. Had
Yeah.
that dark, yet red shading in the areas that were
Yeah.
affected.
Yeah,
And this was mostly brought up by Andy Knight, who thought that people should know, have more information, maps of where these things were happening. Is that how this all
I
happened?
remember him speaking up about that
Yeah.
at some public hearing meeting that
Hmm.
he said people don't know what's going on. and they
Maybe
can't
he would be a
visualize it.
good person to ask, just what do you want to see?
Yeah.
What do you need to have visualized?
You can't do it without the help from those people. So those are 3 people you can contact,
Mark?
unless you're still hesitant about doing it.
Well, I don't know how far I want to get myself into this. I don't know, what do we think as a commission? I mean,
I'm guessing those maps, the layers that were used in there are all public domain, so it shouldn't be any issue to distribute them. That shouldn't be a problem. But it looks like they're mostly what you're asking for is already there. Just needs permission to use them. I think that's really it. So Mark is probably the best
Yeah,
person to
ask him how
work
to
with
approach it.
on that, I'm thinking.
okay. I
Did
will-
we,
And I mean, I think the maps can be, they could be made again. It's not an issue. if We can get the layers.
Did
I
we
could
vote
make
for
them,
that
like, in a
minutes?
GIS.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
Yeah.
no
Okay.
problem, but
So you two can team up.
it would be better if they
Yeah.
just reuse the ones we have.
Mhm.
It wouldn't be hard to recreate them, given the geography. We could get it.
we do love maps. Helpful to see what we're talking about.
You know,
All right,
And to be clear, what's your goal? What's the commission's goal for Charles
to
to
give
approach?
people more information as they go and vote.
Because remember, we're We're also
Yes, oh,
letting
yeah.
these people know, not just us.
Right, this is for the town meeting, before we go to town
Well.
meeting to get as much information.
Which is really close,
It
March
is.
11th. I think it's March 11th.
a month away.
A month, 1 month, 4 weeks away.
So you could set up a table at the, like we did with the,
That's-
the
That'd be-
food waste thing.
That's
We-
what the commission could do, right?
One
Yeah.
platform,
Oh, yeah.
One of the two, I guess, combination.
Yeah, we
Combination.
kind of asked permission.
Yeah.
What was your opinion on setting up a table at a town meeting? Yes or no?
Or the voting about
You have
the,
to talk to Patty.
Steve
Where she
Sloan.
Patty.
wants you,
Fine.
Okay.
right? I mean,
Yes.
it's her polling. it.
Okay,
It's-
well,
John, can I talk to you?
yeah, right, that's good. All right,
Okay.
so other than road salt, we had no other new business, privilege of the floor. Are there any questions out there in Zoom land?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. All right, I think that's it.
okay.
Yes,
so-
so the date of the next meeting. Again, yes,
Nope.
March 11 is town meeting, so we'll push it off till March 18th. The following week, the following Tuesday, March 18th. Great discussion today, thank you.
Yes, thanks again,
Yeah.
Jenny, for going to all those
Yeah.
different websites and
Well, they're all, I mean, it's not hard. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
like I
out
said, you-
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like road salt is bad. Yeah, let's just.
Well-
What can we do to reduce it? Like, it's just kind of, there's no
We-
arguing
we
that
get the
point.
controversy though.
Yeah,
there's
I know the
They
clear
say
roads.
safety.
Well, and
yeah.
that was one of the things that
Yeah.
one of the panelists brought
Don't
up,
we?
you know,
No,
it's
I-
like keep property
Should
managed.
we do a motion to adjourn?
Oh,
Yes, we can
Then we
do the
can-
motion to adjourn. Would you like to do that?
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 And thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.